Hey Internet, I'm back. I was going to do a review. In fact, I was going to do a couple different reviews. The first one, my video capture device setup thing decided didn't want to work anymore, and it didn't record my game footage. And then I tried it again, and it did record, but without sound. So that review got scrapped. And then the last one I did was for a PS4 game called Dragon Fantasy, which is really fun and really funny. Great game, recommend it. But there's just not enough to say to make a full review. So I kind of scrapped that one too, and now here I am talking at you instead. So what I'm going to do is kick off a series I've not really wanted to do, but I've been thinking about doing for a while, called Nintendo is Killing Everything I Love. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to talk about, actually let me get out of the way, I love Nintendo. I've been a big Nintendo fanboy since forever. It was the first console I had was an NES. I've played every console they've released, and yes, I mean every. I've played the Virtual Boy, I've played every iteration of the Game Boy and all their handhelds. I've played the CDI spin-off games. If it's Nintendo, I've probably played it. But I don't know. Lately, it really feels like they don't care about games anymore. So that's what I'm going to talk about. And this first one, it's Pokemon. Now this should be an easy win for them. Pokemon is the most lucrative, profitable, successful franchise ever in the history of the entire everything. It's more than Disney, more than Mario, more than Bugs Bunny, more than anything. It's Pokemon. They've made more money on merchandise from this than anything in the world, and Pikachu is recognizable around the entire planet. So really, it should be hard to screw this up. But they did. Now, I'm just talking about the Switch here, the current generation, because, if they killed something 5 years ago, it's not really relevant to talk about now, despite the fact that most of the games I talk about are old or obscure. But on the Switch, first they started with the Let's Go games. These are awful. I don't know of a single person who was playing Pokemon Red and Blue and thought, hey, you know what would make this better? The terrible catch mechanic from Pokemon Go. But apparently someone at Nintendo did think that, because that's what they put in the game, and it's awful. You never get to catch anything. You waste all your balls all the time. Balls. It's not a good experience. I mean, there's other issues. They also got rid of random battles, which I guess it's easier to chain things now, but it takes some of the fun and excitement out of it. Before, in Pokemon Red and Blue, when you were going through Viridian Forest and you found that Pikachu, it was exciting. It was a rare find. You worked for that. It was fun and cool. Now you just walk around till you see the sprite you want and then walk over to it, start the battle, and catch it. Maybe, after throwing 70 balls. But it's awful. And the forced motion controls just suck. No one wants to have to do that. I'm at home on a home console. Let me just take my Pro Controller, hit the button to catch the thing. That's what I want to do. So, these are garbage. But those aren't the main issue. The main issue are these. I don't know why I keep showing the side. Look, the spines are pretty, but really I don't know why I'm doing that. Pokemon Sword and Shield. These are also terrible. Now, everyone has always wanted Pokemon on a home console. Pretty sure since the first ones came out on a handheld, people wanted them on a home console too. Because when the Game Boy was a thing, Super Nintendo was also a thing. So when Blue and Red came out on the little, 8-bit, 4-bit, whatever the hell it is, everyone thought about how cool it would be on a Super Nintendo with, 16-bit graphics and colors and sound. Like, oh my god, it would be amazing. Would have been. And as the games continued, they obviously got better, but it's still, we all wanted to see what a home console could do. We wanted to see Pokemon in 3D. We wanted to really get into the world and really see how things could be. A linear story through a two-dimensional, sprite-based world is cool, and they did some good things, but especially after seeing, the Detective Pikachu movie, people want to see 3D Pokemon in a big, real, open-world setting and just have a full adventure. The game should feel more like an adventure and less like a linear story. So when Sword and Shield were announced, everyone was psyched, myself included. you know, this was it. This was the game we were waiting for. But no, it was not. As I'm sure most of you know, they butchered the Pokedex. They cut out 2/3 of the Pokemon, because I don't know why. Excuses. They claimed they couldn't fit them, but it's weird that they could bring all those Pokemon back in the paid DLC later on, but more to that later. But aside from removing Pokemon, that's really pretty much all they changed. When you get into the game, it's the same. It's a 3DS game, both in gameplay and graphically. Like, graphically, there's nothing here that couldn't have been accomplished in an earlier handheld. It doesn't look amazing. And being on a console, that's a huge letdown. I mean, this is the same console that has Breath of the Wild. While I don't like the cel-shaded graphics, I'll get into that in a Zelda video, it's massive. It's this gigantic open world. It was very ambitious. It did a lot. These were the opposite. These did nothing ambitious. These were garbage. Aside from the one area in the game worlds, you still can't even move the camera in the game. So, it just, I don't know. These were a giant letdown. And, speaking of the Pokedex, because I did mention it earlier, one of the other major issues here is the Pokedex. Not just the Pokemon that were removed from it, but once the DLC came out and a lot of new Pokemon were added and older Pokemon that were originally cut were added back, these new Pokemon don't show up in your Pokedex. If you go into your Pokemon box in-game, the 400 that came in the original game all have numbers, 1 through 400. All the other Pokemon that have been added since, nope. No numbers, no entries, no anything. There's a separate section that's the Isle of Armor Pokemon, and it shows them in a list, but it also includes some of the Pokemon that were in the original decks, and again, it doesn't really have numbers that show anywhere else. So, if you're OCD like me, and you organize your boxes by number, I'm sure there's a video on screen, and yes, I have way too much time on my hands, you can't do anything with the new Pokemon that were added. Not only that, but the complications from this DLC get a lot worse, because they also released Pokemon Home, a way to link all your previous games to these games and migrate your Pokemon forward. Of course, you have to pay a fee to access your own Pokemon from your own games, because it's Nintendo and that's what they do now. But you can bring forward your old Pokemon. However, if you do, the game won't recognize that you did that. They won't show up in your Pokedex. Like, they're playable, they're usable, but they won't show up and they won't register. So it'll act like you don't have them. And of course, this has been reported. Nintendo knows this is an issue. It hasn't been fixed yet, even though it's been out for months now. But they're aware, so I guess that's a thing. And some of the Pokemon you can bring forward aren't even in the DLC Pokedex. So they're in the game, but they don't show up anywhere, they don't register anywhere, they're not a thing. They're just there. It's weird. It just, the whole thing feels like the DLC was rushed and half finished and tacked on, and was more of just a money grab than a proper addition to the game. Unfortunately, this is a trend for Nintendo right now, with season passes and constant DLC, and just, it's a bad model for a bad game. Aside from the Pokedex and DLC dilemmas and the graphics not being new, the game itself is just uninteresting. The difficulty is non-existent. This is like baby's first RPG. Anyone can play through this without a single loss. It's ridiculously easy. And the story is just really not compelling. I mean, in some of the games the story was a little questionable, and in the first couple it might have been basically non-existent. You were just going around in your dogfighting rings to try and be the best dogfighter in the world, and it's pretty much the whole story. But now it's just dumb. I mean, Hop, the kid you see throughout the whole game, I guess he's your rival, but it never really feels like it. And actually, he probably gets more character development than the main character. Not in a good way, because he looks like a hapless loser the entire game. You feel sorry for him more than anything. But at least he seems to have some character development and growth. Whereas you, the player, you kind of feel absent from your own story. Like, yes, you're there for major events, but I don't know, for whatever reason, you just don't feel important. The story doesn't even really feel important. It all just feels meh. Like, you know when you see the bootleg animated movies that come out, not the ones that are DreamWorks or Pixar or any major studios, like those other ones, that they might even get a big name actor, but it's just, you can tell it's not anything important, you don't need to watch it, the story's not going to matter. That's what this feels like. Yes, it is a Pokemon game, all the elements are there, and some people might find some enjoyment, but overall it doesn't hold up, it's not great. And I'm not going to pretend for a second that making a game, especially a Pokemon game, with so much legacy and so many existing characters and so much expectation is easy. However, it could have been done a lot better. For one, proper graphics and a real open world that we could move around in 3D spaces and move the freaking camera, that would really help. And as far as gameplay goes, just, I don't know, make it more interesting, put more thought into it. Heck, if you look at the YouTube channel Noggin, he's creating on his own. Well, I think he licensed some people to help him. License is not the right word, but you know what I mean. But he's designing and creating a whole game based on the American Northeast, or Northwest maps. Yeah. It looks great. It looks infinitely more interesting. The Pokemon look a lot cooler. That's way better than the stuff that Pokemon Team actually put out. And that's really sad. You know, fans can contribute to things, but they shouldn't be doing it better. And if they are, you should hire them and let them advise how the game goes, because really, you don't need more of this. So, I guess in my closing statements, an open letter to Nintendo, who is not watching or paying attention to this video, because neither are any of you, no one watches these except for one girl over in Washington. Hi. But just do better. Try harder. You know, if you're going to include things after the fact as DLC, at least make sure they're fully integrated. Let them show up in the Pokedex, you know, make it count. And now that we're on a home console and Nintendo is finally making something capable of being almost current gen, give us real graphics. You know, I mean, Monster Hunter is a thing. Make it look like that. You know, make it 3D. Make the monsters look like monsters. At the end of the day, that's what they are. They're pocket monsters. That's what the name means. I know some of them are cute and cuddly, and that's great. So, again, I'll go back to the Detective Pikachu, you know, comparison. Pokemon in there were kind of cute, and they were also 3D, and that looked great. Do that. Give me a game like that, I'll play it all day. But this nonsense, I'm not going to pay full price to play on a console what's really just a 3DS game with a lot of the content stuck behind a paywall and with no difficulty whatsoever. It's really just a massive letdown. So, yeah, I guess that's all I'm going to say about Pokemon for now. But come back and watch more videos if you want to see me poo all over all the other franchises that Nintendo is killing. And they are. They really, really are.